All right, welcome, everybody. This is the brand new YouTube channel here. We just started. We did a pilot run on my other channel. Decided, hey, that was too much fun. Let's do this again. Yeah, I remember starting from scratch. It'll take some time. I think, we're at, I think, 19 subscribers last I checked on this channel. I love to see when we hit 100. Tell your friends, tell your family. Do what I did at the beginning. Make up accounts, subscribe more than once. Yeah, no one says that's not allowed. Anyhow, you'll likely catch it after the fact. Thank you very much for joining us again. This is John and Steve with the 3-2 podcast. This, yes, just another baseball podcast. Yeah, I snuck that in there. Anyhow, on the docket for today, we're gonna talk a few things. We're gonna talk about gambling, Chase Utley, pitchers. Are they safe? Are they not safe? Has baseball changed forever? And is it ruining the game? Could change maybe too much. Let's get into that here in a sec. Not before our introduction.
Start the party, Los Angeles! Your Dodgers have won the World Series!
All right, Steve. At some point, I'll sneak in a Royals.
Yeah, we've got a year of the same Dodgers winning the World Series intro to look forward to. Fantastic.
I can't yet make the 2025 intro, but it's copy paste. I'm sure
It'll probably look pretty similar. And I apologize for those of you who have young kids. You'll be sympathetic to me. We've got kids, getting out of bed and whatever. So I apologize for any if a 5-year-old pays a visit to the podcast. You'll have to forgive me in advance.
Oh, no worries. That's how we roll. That is how we roll. I totally get that. I'm often running late for pods because I'm in the middle of putting someone to sleep or helping someone go to sleep or.
So when are you gonna take your kid to the first baseball game, or has that happened already?
Not yet. We were gonna do it. So we were gonna do this last year. This last year, and then I saw how much it was gonna cost a family of 3 to go to a game at Petco Park, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to a baseball game. Not because it was maybe like it was rough. I like probably $300, give or take.
Yeah.
Which isn't, I guess it's modern day entertainment. And that wasn't necessarily the thing that that would have stopped me, though it should have. The piece that stopped me was I'm trying to do the calculus. How long would I be able to sit at a baseball game before my kid says, this is boring, I want to go home?
Yeah.
And, there goes the money you tossed into a game. I know they've got the pavilion seats for the kiddos at Petco, which is really nice. We're really looking forward to go this year. We'll see how that goes. Have you taken, I'm sure you've taken your kids.
Not yet. So my oldest is 5 now. And it's funny, we got her into T-ball when she was 4, right? And it's like herding cats with 4-year-olds. Yeah. And we were cycling through the sports, and I asked her, I sat down, I said, Evie, you seemed like you're having fun at soccer. What do you want to do? And she said she wanted to do baseball. And I went,
nice.
And I didn't push that, right? I wasn't like, but it's baseball, isn't it, Evie? She just, it's a lot of fun for the kids. But you're right. I've been hesitant too for even Evie, who's 5. I think I'd have about 15 minutes before I'd have to, go to they have the, do they have the wiffle ball park at Petco? Gosh, I forget.
They do. Yeah, they have that field out.
Yeah, but it would probably be Anaheim that I'd take her to for the ticket prices as well. I think you'd be able to pay about half that.
Anaheim. Well, I don't know, Steve. The Angels have a pretty ballin' team if you're looking at 2019 metrics. I mean, they've signed some pretty awesome players.
Yeah. And we're riding on the coattails now of, oh my gosh, his name eludes me. My goodness gracious, Hunter Renfroe, who never really panned out for them, and now he's not so much panning out for KC. He's serviceable. I mean, our outfield's terrible, but
What could be worse? You could have the services of I don't like baseball, Anthony Rendon.
yeah,
Um, talk talk about a Dodger
right hook,
bullet for
Anthony
Dodger
Rendon. Yeah,
fans. Anyways, gambling in baseball. I don't know if you caught this. This is a pretty under the radar, um, sort of play that happened recently. There's an umpire, and I'm blanking on the name.
yeah, I heard about that too. Who got?
Pat
He's out, right? He's
Goldberg.
out. Get his name,
He,
but he's done, right?
he's done. He
He
is
got Pete
done,
Rose.
and it was a bit complicated. The way I understand the story is he didn't directly like gamble himself, but someone used like his phone to open up one of those like you know sport betting
Yeah,
platform on his
yep,
phone, and then there's some deleted tweets made him look bad.
yep.
No bueno for him. But I don't know if you know of the guy. I didn't know anything of him until I heard the name. He was, you're not only losing an ump, you're losing a pretty damn good ump as far as umps go. The guy called a 100%
Yep.
sort of game, World Series game in 2022. Statistics. Let me show you these. Where he ranks as far as accuracy rate. There's lots of ways you can sort of measure how good an ump is. I suppose for me, just how accurate are you at calling balls and strikes? Where do you think Angel Hernandez lands on that list?
I bet he's not dead last of since they started recording the metric. I'll see.
So I'm looking back from 2000 to today, and he's
Yeah.
got probably close to 200 games on there. Well, yeah,
Okay.
we'll get to Angel here in a second. Let's look at Pat's numbers here.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
And then while I think about your question, I guess you're asking me what the percent accuracy of all calls made are for Angel, right? Oh, is Joe
yeah,
West below Angel? No way.
Joe West is below.
Wow, I would have lost that bet. I knew he had a
Yeah,
reputation of not being the greatest umpire, but this is okay. This is the difference, right? Because I know West doesn't have the best reputation for accuracy, but I think you can make a
Joe.
case that he's way more approachable and likable than Angel Hernandez, right?
That's the
Which probably
thing.
explains why Hernandez gets all the flack, right? Because I mean, he would not stand. Well, I say he wouldn't stand for anything, but there's so many clips of him just having such a short temper and just throwing guys out left and right. And West has so many of those interactions where he's having a little bit of fun with the job and whatever. And
He's
at
goofy.
least old Joe West.
He reminded me of that goofy grandpa, right? And,
Yeah,
and, and
right.
even so, Joe West didn't have the worst accuracy. I sort of pulled his name because I
Mhm.
recognize the name for comparison's sake here. Um, I think worst accuracy rate was like 88%. And, the guy, the ump who had that accuracy rate he had only 47 games or something, something low. And here you've got Derek Thomas. I don't know the guy. He's got a pretty high accuracy rate, but he's only 47 games compared to,
Mhm.
Pat, Angel, and Joe here on the list. Nevertheless, Pat's gone. You lost a pretty good ump here. Umpire scorecards. If you're not familiar with them, check them out. Pretty good resource as far as your umps here go. But not only are you losing an ump, you're losing a pretty damn good one. I mean, the whole gambling piece, and I know we can get into the do a deep dive here and talk Beat Rose if you want, but um, from a legal perspective, from a baseball rules perspective, I won't dabble there because I'm an expert in neither. But maybe from a ethical perspective, gambling in sports altogether, gambling in baseball. I mean, what are your thoughts there? Are we sort of being a bit silly here by saying you can or can't do something that everyone else is pretty much eligible to do?
Yeah, a lot of sports are more lenient on it. They'll let sportsbook betting happen if they're not in the same league or in different sports and whatever. I'm kind of torn because they have I mean, they're still writing on the Black Sox scandal. and they took zero tolerance after that. That if you engage in it whatsoever, that you're just absolutely blackballed from. I mean, from Pete Rose, who there was never any proof with Rose that he was making any bets as a player, although he might have been. There was never shown, right? All of his betting that was proven, or at least there was quite a bit of evidence for it that he was engaging in that as a manager, had nothing to do with his player appearances, right? And he's still blackballed from the Hall of Fame for that, for his accomplishments as a player, which are extraordinary. So where I stand on it, it's kind of for me where I stand on with steroids and substance abuse. I think you have to make it. I think you either have to be absolutely judicious about cracking down on violations for it, because if you don't, then you risk these sort of like you risk people pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I think I don't disagree with where MLB's been with just zero tolerance. Even if you could argue, well, a sports guy ought to be able to have some fun, make some bets. What if it's a different sport? What if it's not even games that they're playing in? And then you get into this murkiness with, well, athletes have a little bit more knowledge about what's going on, even with other professional athletes in different sports. And I kind of like integrity above everything, even if it sacrifices some of the nuance in between. So it's harsh. You do lose a fantastic umpire. I know the details were a little bit. So apparently, it was someone else supposedly
Right.
using his phone to place bets. I don't think it was proven that he was directly making the bets, although who knows. And so, because it's so closely, now correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I believe happened,
No, no,
but I
that's how
could have
I
some of the
understand it
details
too.
wrong.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, and I can totally understand where someone would say, well, okay, your zero tolerance policy has just cost the game a wonderful umpire. And also, he wasn't really placing bets, so having absolutely no nuance in it is harmful too. So it's really tough. It's really tough.
I
And
would,
then,
I would want to see some leniency there, to be honest. I know it sounds maybe sort of a hot take perspective here from the from the stance, from this position. I mean, gambling is so it's so pervasive. It's all over. You're advertising with gambling platforms.
they've partnered with gambling houses now, right? The MLB has, which is kind
Oh,
of
they
funny.
have, yeah. You've got your fifty
So
fifty raffles at baseball games. I mean, that's a sort of gambling. I mean, and then where does gambling start and end, right? I mean, you can have that argument too. Fantasy football leagues within baseball teams, is that not a form of gambling? I
okay,
mean, if
oh
you,
yeah, I think that the most important thing that people would care about, I think if you ask them, would be, I think, now I might be putting words into some people's minds, is so long as the gambling is not compromising the purity of the result of the game in
yeah,
any sense of it, then there's no problem with it, right? But that's impossible to know, right? Is, well, or are you getting yeah, is this affecting what would be the purity of the sport in general? Are you throwing games? Are you getting guys to sort of give you a run here or there or whatever? And yeah, I don't know if you could ever know that, because it's not all just about the facts of whether or not that's true. It's also about the image of the game too. But now that
perception.
you're introducing the MLB's partnership with these gambling places, and then you also have a complete ban on anyone engaging in that enterprise, it's a little bit of well, I don't want to say hypocrisy, but it's a little bit
Right?
peculiar, isn't it, John?
It's pretty peculiar. And depending on how nefarious you want to be, I'm sure a pretty good VPN or a bookie. I mean, there's all these. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see what changes. And maybe we don't want anything to change. I like to be a professional contrarian, so you'll hear me go back and forth as to whether or not I think something is good or bad on the premise of I want to argue with Steve. But we'll see. We'll see, Steve. We'll see. Let's hit this next one. I know we talked about it on our pilot stream. When you envision automatic strike zone, if we don't implement these Boston Scientific robots calling balls and strikes, then I don't want it. Um, Spring training just started. There was a bit more clarity, at least for me as a casual fan, as to what the rule intends. I don't know if you saw this, Steve, but um, ABS challenge rules. So each team will have two challenges, and will retain successful challenges if you sort of call it in your favor. Only the batter, pitcher, or catcher can challenge a call, so no one from the
Yeah, until trash
catcher.
bins start banging to notify when
Oh
the
boy,
catcher
yeah,
or
yeah,
third
yeah.
batter
You
out of
can't. You
challenge.
there you
There'll
go.
be
There you
there'll be
go.
something. That'll be the next thing.
And then challenges must be made immediately after an umpire's call. Um, with this clarity, does that where do you land on things? And do you like it
Yeah,
like that?
if they were going to have the robotic assistant sort of like a expedited replay, this is probably the best way to do it. I was laughing at your graphic with the robot literally. Hey, then you could have umpires betting on the games, right? Because then they're sort of superfluous. They're just yeah. So the system that they have, which got tested out in the minors and got played with a little bit, sort of yeah, I'm not all for robotic umpires in general, but then this is definitely it's difficult to say that and then look at the assistance that replay has given to the sport. It's difficult for anyone to go back on the replay the challenges that have been able to be done without calls and so forth. So I will I'm happy that they're trying things and we'll see how it goes. I suspect that this is probably going to be here to stay with some amendments to iron out the details. But fair enough. I it's I think it's fair that these big calls in big situations don't cost you know pitchers or batters severely. But then again, I've also already argued that I do like the that a strike zone is subjective. I like a little bit of subjectivity there. Which, when you brought up the statistics for the umpires' accuracy for balls and strikes, like okay, that is if you want to go by a ball as it's an objective measurement of if it's within these bounds. Fair enough. That's hard to argue against. But I also like the idea that an umpire can have a particular zone that's textbook, not a strike, but that's going to get called that way. And your accuracy of balls and strikes is not reflecting that. It's just what a robotic umpire would call, right?
Well, it's pretty interesting. I was watching a John Boy Media breakdown as to umps and their perspective on the whole automatic strike zone.
Where does John
Uh,
Boy stand on it?
well, the video presented, which sort of got me to think. If you really think about it, they did a breakdown about 50. I think it was like 50% of pitches are swung at, as foul, hit, whatever, right? And of the remaining 50%, you're really looking at maybe what it boils down to is 48 pitches in a game that where the ump is making the bread and butter, where they're in that shadow
Yep.
zone of being called a strike or a ball, and that's really when you're implementing sort of it's where the umps are making their money. It makes it interesting for me because it's almost sort of the opposite. You're sort of the pendulum swinging the other way. For some time, the idea was, hey, the game is slow, let's speed it up. This almost feels like you're slowing it down to in a
It's
sense.
pretty quick though, right? It's a helmet tap or whatever for the
When
challenge,
this
but
is this just happened yesterday, right? So what's it, like a minute long video.
hmm.
You're making a determination there. um you get into the question of, does that change momentum for a pitcher? Does that sort of, how does that influence the game? In a pressured situation, do you go for the review because you need a minute, or do you want to maybe rattle
Oh,
the
you've
the
taken your time out already, and then you use it
yeah,
as an extra one. Yeah, but it's
pretty
two
much.
it's two team challenges, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it adds another dimension, I guess. And yeah, you could think about okay. If you were all for the challenges and you wanted the what would be the argument to only have two? Why not have the system call everything? What would you say is the best argument against that? Because you sort of have this mishmash now of okay, you get sort of is it an attempt to try to appease everybody to get the classic dudes like myself where it's like, well, I like the
Yeah.
umpire calling him and his discretion, but I don't like it when he's wrong.
When you can see the variability there, right? I had no perception as to how, what accuracy rate umpires had until I did some digging, right? You're looking at average anywhere from 90%
Call it
to
90 some
95%.
odd percent. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there is still some variability, and I don't know how much of a tremendous difference you're going to see. Are you going to have teams who refuse to use their calls until late innings? Maybe that's your strategy. It's an interesting perspective. It's going to add a whole, for those of us who maybe didn't care for sabermetrics, it's a whole nother layer as to when you start using your strategic
Yeah,
reviews
but
here.
John, the problem is the batter, pitcher, or catcher gets to use them, and there's going to be guys who have the reputation for sucking all the challenges for themselves. I'm going to laugh so hard when, oh, who's egregious at it? I'll think of a player who I could just imagine their first at bat, both challenges down the drain immediately. First,
First inning, first inning,
yeah,
a first at bat.
yeah. So I bet dudes won't want to use them unless it's. I mean, maybe that'll be good because then it'll maybe just catch the most egregious, and you do sort of get those borderline. Because I mean, with the way guys are in the clubhouse, most of them, the last thing you want to do is have that reputation for screwing one of your teammates out of their ability to challenge. I mean, God forbid if you're wrong. Like,
I can't wait to start betting on that, Steve. I'm just
wait,
saying.
John, do you get it back if you're correct?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, okay. Now I am worried about pace of play.
Yeah.
2 challenges, retain successful challenges. Oh boy. Okay. That would have been funny to watch Angel or Joe West
Oh
call
boy, that
call
was
a game in
hilarious.
just the challenges. I mean, because you're
Uh,
looking at average. I mean, there's games where Angel has been like 80%, right? Or at least I've seen just back to back to.
I've seen some. You know what? Some of them were just really egregious. Anyhow, second best, Steve. Who's your second best team in the league? We're not going to discuss who's the first because on paper, they're glass arms and glass legs and glass shoulders.
Thank God, not glass
Dodgers on
heads.
paper.
Thank God, not
Boy,
glass
we'll
heads,
get there.
man.
We'll get
That
there in
was
a minute.
scary.
Who's
Who's the second best team?
second?
Well, it could be someone in the NL, but being a Royals fan, I'm always more read up on AL teams. But I don't think it's the right answer, but the easy one for me is if it's an AL team to say the Yankees, but they probably didn't get better from 2024. I
That's
mean,
debatable, man. I don't know. I know. As far as WAR goes, right? Juan Soto was a power bat. He was a power person. I What was their weakness as a team, right? Defensively, they were pretty bad. I think they've improved defensively.
yeah.
They added Devin Williams, which looked weird without a
Well,
weird look
Judge
at the
usually
kid.
isn't that bad. I mean, what's his defensive metrics? Like, I wonder how the Yankees do stack up defensively. Because I mean, obviously everyone knows about their complete collapse in the series, but they weren't that bad defensively. That was an outlier. They
They
kind of,
they I for if you're looking at in a vacuum, Aaron Judge made the only error he had that whole year
yeah.
in the World Series, right?
What a one to have, man.
Boy, yeah. Before the Alex Bregman signing, I would have said maybe Yankees. With Alex Bregman, the Red Sox look interesting on paper.
Okay.
Whether he plays third or second, that's up for debate these days, I suppose. Uh, I think with everything, right? Presuming health, their pitching staff looks nice.
Mhm.
Last year Lucas Giolito, I think you would have said on paper was their best player. He's probably fallen down to third or fourth this year. Um, they've added my Walker Bueller. What
How old is
Bulldog.
Bueller these days? He's got to be
He's
pushing it.
I think he's 30, 32.
Oh, is he that young? He's only 30. Oh man, I thought he was way older than that.
He's
Okay.
got a few Tommy Johns under his belt, which
Okay.
doesn't help him
Maybe
out.
that's why I think of him as an aged asset. Okay. Could be. But the second best team could very well be in the NL in the form of the Phillies. Who knows?
Or even the Diamondbacks. I mean, they're interesting.
Yeah, well,
Um, on paper, right? Pitching wise, they got better. or
But we all
Rimbun.
know it's the Royals who are the second best team in the majors.
You know,
With all
you
these.
don't sleep on the Royals. You know, maybe they can.
Well,
You
yeah,
guys got a little better. That
yeah, but
Jonathan
we had
India
an
trade.
absolute outlier of starting pitching last year. It was just flukish how like I think that is going to recede towards the mean there, and they're not nearly going to get the performance that they had from the starters, which means that the bullpen is going to get exposed even more because I mean, excuse me, I doubt how many Royals fans we would have listening on the broadcast, but it's funny when the Royals made their run in 2014 and 2015, it was inverted. They had a very mediocre starting rotation, and the name of the game was actually get to the bullpen, like get to the sixth, maybe. And then you could have, who was it? Kelvin Herrera. You could have Wade Davis, and there were one or two other Studley arms who got my brains just mush now at 40. But anyway, and now it's completely the opposite. Now it's God, if the starters can get us to 6 or 7, get a super quality start in there, then we're in good shape. But it's going to recede towards the mean, and then the bullpen's going to get even more exposed because we didn't do much for the pen. So,
For a
and then,
small market team, you guys, is Salvador Perez still your catcher?
yeah, yeah.
How old
I
is he?
think he's got a few more years left in him. Yeah, and he's not going anywhere. He is. He
Well, he's a
will.
dog, from what I hear. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
he's a workhorse.
Yeah, he's the heart and soul of the team. He had one season of whatever. He actually led the league in dingers, I think. Believe it or not, someone from Kansas City leading the
Really.
league in home runs at 40 some odd a few years ago.
He reminds me of he's got that Molina brother sort of pizzazz to him these days.
Yeah, he's the staple clubhouse guy in Kansas City, just the gel that holds the team together. He's definitely getting on in years. Well, they don't even have him catching. God,
Is he PHing?
50% of the time now. Yeah, and playing first base actually most of the time. He's just getting on in years, but we'll see. The most troubling thing about this is why it's so nice to be a Dodgers fan. The most troubling thing about the Royals is it used to be the Royals had a gem of a farm system, and now I don't even have that so much to look excited about. So we brought up Bobby Witt, and then that
And
was
that's
it,
it.
and that's it.
That's it.
And then it's basically Convini and a few other guys who were supposed to be surefire prospects. I'm looking at MJ Melendez in particular. I feel for the guy. Like the dude has so much effort, like compared to like, oh God, what was his name? The son of Mondesi, who is exactly the
Oh yeah,
opposite,
yeah,
had
yeah.
all the talent in the world, and then just completely lost the heart and spirit. I like MJ for the exact opposite, right? He will not quit. And so, just hats off to the guy. I wish for no one more on the Royals roster to succeed than MJ Melendez. But he's had a few years now, and this is
Well,
probably his last.
let's go this far. Yeah, maybe the Royals are the best in the AL Central these days.
No, I don't think so.
Really, you're gonna give the Indians that much credit?
You can't say you mean the Guardians.
Guardians, see, I mean, name change.
YouTube's going to cancel this
I
video
did.
now.
I
How
did.
dare you, sir? You know, I still do it. Well, the Chiefs will be next on the chopping block, so yeah,
You're gonna give the Guardians that much
days are
credit.
numbered till we get a watered down, crappy team name. I'm very excited. Yeah.
But
No-
you gotta make it back to the Super Bowl so we can keep hating on you guys.
Oh,
Anyhow,
too soon.
anyhow.
Okay, so who's the second best team? Oh, sorry, I don't think we ever got an actual answer to your
Okay,
good question.
let's get your answer.
I'm going to defer to you because I think the second best team is in the NL. Do you agree with that?
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, then who
I
is
think
it?
so.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. If it's not the Diamondbacks, it's the Phillies, and if it's not the Phillies, sleeper team Braves.
Braves? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Go with that. Let's go with that. Definitely not. Boy, how things have changed. I remember back in my day, Steve. The AL was the formidable opponent. They were the premier division in the league, and
What's the overall record in the All-Star game?
All-Star game? I don't know, but I remember there was a period in time where you couldn't. It was just not worth watching because I knew the AL was just gonna win.
That's because
And
we
that
have
much
the
better.
Yankees. I mean,
Well, well. Chase Utley, Steve. Chase Utley. My question to you: replay review. Let's review some calls. History books. What will they say on Chase Utley? Is he a dirty player, or was he just did he just play baseball hard? Let me show you a video.
okay, show me the
That got me
video.
to think. It got me
This is
to
so
think
ridiculous.
about Chase Utley. Let's watch the video and
Go.
let's get your
Yeah, I know
impression.
what you're gonna show me.
It's the 2015 NLDS. There's been tension between these two teams all year, and down by 1 in the 7th, the Dodgers need a run to keep their season alive. Howie Kendrick hits a slow grounder to second, and all hell breaks loose. ESPN called it dirty and malicious. The New York Post called it 100% dirty. Matt Harvey called it a tackle. Even old school players like Chipper Jones and Pedro Martinez both chimed in, calling the play dirty, which is saying a lot because they played in an era when this was allowed.
Just like the Flames could dream. Oh, he's taken out at second base. Did Kratz hang on? He hung on!
Out at second.
You forgot to show Hal McRae's slide, which is the best of all time.
Okay.
You should pull
I-
that one up.
Let me while we're chatting, let me show you some of these here. But let me ask you, I mean, was he a dirty player? Or did he just play hard baseball? Did he play baseball hard?
This bothers me. Okay. So if you compare so I was frantically trying to find the dirtiness of Chase Utley. So you come up with this one, and there's another one where he slides in hard against oh God, I forget his name.
I think I have it here. He played for the Cardinals.
Yes, correct. Okay. So dirty compared to what? Compared to the rules that Chase is playing under at this time? Dirty compared to the way that the game used to be played? Or dirty compared to the way the rules are now? And I think the only fair thing you can do for Chase Utley is compare him to the rules in which he is playing under in that baseball game right there. And I know some of these old school, I'm surprised Chipper had that comment, but okay. So it's funny, they suspended Utley for a couple games after this, which he appealed.
And he challenged.
And he
appealed,
won
yeah.
the appeal.
Which
Now,
is-
I know this is now the reason that we play under the very, very, but okay, I don't like seeing guys get hurt, particularly on collision plays, but he is playing legitimately fairly under the rules that baseball game was being played under. He's completely allowed to do that. The idea that you had to make a direct slide to the bag, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, I mean, if he doesn't do that, if he does not bust up that double play, he, under the rules that he's playing, he is doing a disservice to his teammates. He's doing a disservice. I don't know who hit that, who is going to get rolled up in that double play, but he has to do that. I mean, you can say, well, he doesn't have to break the dude's leg, which he did, and end his career, because he was never the same after that. Yeah, well, when you have contact in a sport like that, that's an inevitable chance that occurs, right? Good. He even pulls up a little bit, and he takes a shot himself. Like, he has taken his leg. See, he's trying to brace himself, dude. Like, he's got to bust him up. What do you want him to do? Like, if he needs to bust up that play, and that's within the rule set, he is allowed to make that sort of slide. That's the other one against.
Yeah.
Right.
Cardinals.
So he does a very, very similar slide, right? And it was so egregious, the injury was because he's turning so hard, right? It's because he's making that turn and really gets that leg twisted and broken, right? But dude, he was allowed to do it. Like, if he doesn't do that, he's doing a disservice to his teammates. If he does it, there's a chance that people get injured, right? Like, so dirty compared to the old rules of baseball? Absolutely not, because you can show Hal McRae tackling a dude into left field. Like, it's hilarious, the Hal McRae one. Catchers getting railroaded, etc. Am I happy to see that they've taken some safety precautions for the players? Yeah, sure. Am I going to call a player a filthy, dirty ball player who's playing under the rules, who's doing what he needs to do at that time fairly? No, absolutely not. He's busting up a double play, which you used to be able to do. And what you get now, so I'm going to get fired up about that topic. What you get now is they're so careful about any sort of contact being made when turning double plays. You get these guys just jogging out these and
It's
doing this
ridiculous.
little like token slide or whatever, which I don't understand. Why don't they just stand up in the running lane? I don't understand why guys do the shortstop a favor and get out of the throwing lane, because you don't have to. You can maintain that running lane. But they do this wimpy little slide now where it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm out. Gee shucks. Like, so we're talking about happy mediums with like the automated strike zone and whatever, and they're going
There you
so
go.
far. I see it in
There you go,
baseball. I
Steve.
see it in football too, with kickoff rules, with just all this. There needs to be at some point where people say contact sports have the risk of injury. We should protect players as much as is reasonable, but they're just going over.
When and it's changed so much where that there was ramifications to what you could do when with the catchers and what you were doing at home, and
Yeah.
sort of interesting. It
Somewhere in between pile driving a catcher and doing a Mickey Mouse
middle
slide
ground.
into second base is probably where the game should be played, and Chase Utley was playing within that domain.
Well, yeah. So I would really recommend anyone who wants to nerd out on baseball, check out Baseball Doesn't Exist, their YouTube channel. Like deep dives, incredible deep dives. They reference, there was a Chase Utley interview done not too long ago, certainly well after retirement. They asked him the question, "Hey, was that play, in the NLDS, was that dirty?" And his response was, "Well, it depends which team you were rooting for."
Absolutely right. Yeah. If he doesn't do that, do you know what his teammates will think of him?
Right.
If he doesn't attempt to bust up the double play, not if he doesn't break the dude's leg, obviously. If he doesn't go in hard like that, dude, like, for those of you who have played contact sports, I played rugby and Aussie rules. If you're not within the rules of the game putting your body on the line like that for your teammates, I mean, baseball has few and far, but it's very rare the times that you actually get to make a play for the benefit of a teammate. So baseball, even though it's a team sport, has that particular nuance about it, that it's a solo sport with the veneer of a team sport. It's right. I mean, I know turning double plays and assists and whatever have cooperation, right? But it's not that
Tokyo Dome.
It's not that you're passing the ball around and assisting people. I don't throw the ball up to you for you to hit a home run, right? This is one of those times where you actually do get to contribute to the team for the sake of one of your teammates. And dude, if he doesn't do that, he's gonna get a reputation of being soft, etc. They used to be a hard game, and there's been a softification in many sports. Look at the NBA. Look at okay, it's been done in football.
Don't touch the quarterback.
Don't touch him. Don't touch the quarterback. Don't touch and okay. Once again, I like players not getting concussions and getting injured. I like that not happening. Okay, so don't think that I'm not taking that into account here. But I also like players being able to play defense. I also like quarterbacks being viewed as football players, right? And I mean, being a Chiefs fan, I mean, anyone who wants to say, well, gee, Mahomes gets the Brady treatment if you touch it, I'll be like, yeah, I know. Like, I don't like it either. I hate this sideline run. Sorry, I know it's a baseball podcast, but the Chiefs are recent in my memory. But I don't like this running along the sideline. You can't touch me if I'm going out of bounds stuff, and I don't like Chase Utley being called a dirty player for breaking up a double play. No.
So let me ask you this: if it were up to Steve, and you were the commish, would you revert or maybe pull back on some of these, the Chase Utley rule as it's been dubbed, right? Would you sort of maybe trickle back on that a bit?
The Chase Utley what? Would I trickle back on what?
The Chase Utley rule. Would you backpedal on that?
Yeah, I think you can't, because I suspect, John. Well, this is probably too much conjecture. I think that the NFL Sorry, I'm talking football again. Please forgive me. But I think that they're so worried about lawsuits from players if they don't do their due diligence protecting these guys and their careers from injury when they kind of could take these measures, that now it's so far on the side of caution that it's impossible to do so.
So CBA would say, no way, Jose.
Yeah, well, for sure. You're screwed now. The genie is out of the bottle now. So to put that cork back in to close Pandora's box now, it's gonna take, if it ever happens, it's gonna take a long, long time. It'll be some arena baseball that you see it, you know.
Well, speaking of exhibition games, let's get to our next topic here. Let's talk about the World Baseball Classic.
Okay.
Is that would you say where does that fall as far as important? Does it maybe not get the credit it's due, and is it better than the World Series in some respects?
Yes. There. That question was easy.
How so? Why? Why? I find it hard from a American baseball perspective. I find it hard to sort of land there because
Okay.
you're not sending your best of the best, and
I'll
maybe
get you there.
round, maybe this last time around, Mike Trout was there. How cool to see him play against, or bat against Otani there
If Otani
at
pitched
the
this
end.
way, it wouldn't.
But if you're not sending the best of your best, how much, how relevant? Can you imagine, changing sports up? Can you imagine a World Cup without Messi, or a World Cup without Ronaldo, like in their prime? Like if Garrett Cole is gonna pitch, but he's restricted because the Yankees say he can't pitch more than X amount of innings.
Yeah.
Does that does that have the same sort of pizzazz that a Japanese team who's like heart and soul is in this, and lo and behold, you have more viewers as a country than you have viewers for a Super Bowl game. I mean, what do you say there?
Okay. It's a fair point. If you're not having the premier best in the world talent that are participating in the event, if you have a World Cup without Messi, without Ronaldo, then it's tough to make the claim that the World Baseball Classic is better than the World Series. I understand that, and I know a lot of these guys are protecting their longevity for the season when the World Baseball Classic rolls around. All right. But I'll say, okay, when I moved to this country, and we moved to Kansas City when I was 6, and the only thing we knew about Kansas City when we moved there is the Royals had won the World Series the year before in '85. So we're like, okay, great. And my parents always thought it was hilarious that Americans would call it the World Series, because as Eddie Izzard said, who's a Brit, by the way, a very funny stand-up comedian, and he said, when we have a World Series, we actually, I don't know, invite other countries. Probably a good idea if you want to call it a World Series. It's hilarious. It's sort of how, like, that is the world of America, basically, that you would have the audacity to call something that's American, well, and Canadian, I suppose, the World Series. It's just so funny to me. And why I will say in spirit the World Baseball Classic is better than the World Series, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second, is I've always liked the idea, well, and it is way more international now. I mean, Otani, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can go down a list of these international players who you no longer have to find a guy. I mean, the prospective development for your international scouts now, you don't have to guess so much. You've got the Mexican leagues, Korean leagues, Japanese leagues, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, anywhere in South America you want to go, you've got pretty darn good baseball. So you say you're not getting the all-star superstars necessarily, although you do get Trout, and you're not getting all of them. You're not getting the absolute premier squad that you could possibly get, and that's true for America. Okay? But
Right.
You're seeing other countries with their premier talent too, and I like the idea of internationalizing you guys a little bit to the idea that other countries exist.
And
Actually
it's wild.
be
It's
competed
wild.
against.
It's wild to see some of these sort of I don't know, these for lack of a better word, these politics play out on the field. I mean, Korea versus Japan.
Yeah.
There was a game, Korea wins, they beat Japan, and what do? They plant the Korean flag on the pitching mound, which drives the Japanese. It drove Ishiro. It drove him mad. Like, how dare you? But it's that sort of
It
that
brings
energy passion.
So like the World Cup, okay. The cool thing about it is, here's an argument why I would say I like the World Baseball Classic better than the World Series. Is you've got LA and you've got New York playing in the World Series, and it's fine, and it does get good ratings, and I mean you have two powerhouse teams playing against each other, but a lot of the country still is not nearly as invested unless you're a fan of that team. I mean, I know people will throw the Super Bowl on, et cetera, but the cool thing about the World Cup in soccer, or when you have a country to root for, is it's just awesome because everyone can get behind Team America, right? Whether it's the Olympics comes around or whatever. And the potential for it to be such a okay. What was the viewership of the World Baseball Classic versus the World Series? And you
Oh
better
boy,
count international viewing statistics, right? Not just
I'll
American.
I'll look that up. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
All right. Yeah. So with the scope of where baseball is going and has developed, it's just so cool to see countries play against each other where everyone can get on board. And I can be well, I'm already a Mike Trout fan, but I can actually have Mike Trout on my team. Are you kidding me? Like that it's a dream come true and everyone get excited. And another awesome thing about it is it's an immediate series, right? So anything can happen. Who knows what might happen? Japan could beat the United States by one run, I think. So 1 or 2 runs when Otani struck him out. I think they were down by 1 because I was hoping he did a dinger to tie it.
It was
think,
yeah.
Right?
I think you're right.
Yeah, it's just the ability to bring everyone together to root for the United States is just such a cool idea. With the Olympics, with the World Cup, with whatever, to internationalize it, to see. I mean, and you do get to see superstars. Maybe you don't see all the superstars, but you get a jacked lineup, dude.
Oh,
So,
you do.
okay.
So I've got numbers for you, Steve. I've got numbers for you.
Go. Okay, you sound pretty happy, so it's probably not.
These are 2023 numbers, according to the infallible Wikipedia.
All right.
World Series numbers, average viewers in millions. We had 11.48 million.
Can you pull it up so we can see it?
Yeah, let me do this. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Share screen. Okay. Here we go. I'll blow it up. See that? World Baseball Classic viewership.
Let's go. Let's go.
Wild. And yet, my understanding is back home here in the States, people weren't watching it. They didn't care for it. I think networks even wanted to pull the plug on it.
Yeah. Tisk.
Night and day. Well,
maybe the rest of the world can play it, not invite the United States and call it the World Baseball Classic Sans America.
I don't know. Now's a spicy time to have American sporting events. Did you see what happened with the NHL? Team USA versus Canada? That was spicy.
But that's been brewing for like the last week or two, right?
Yeah, but
you're talking about the anthem, right?
Yeah, the whole anthem thing. Interesting stuff. I mean,
did they just boo it again? Is that all that happened?
I didn't catch what happened this last game. Okay. Canada sort of equaled the playing field here and won that game. But it was funny. I saw a video where they're interviewing one of the Americans who started one of the brawls. He's like, "Why did you start the brawl?" And he's like, "Because they were booing the American anthem, and I'm not gonna let no Canadian maple eating fuck get away with that." Just hilarious. I mean, I want to see a shirt with that. I mean, it's
well, yeah, that's almost certainly going too far with your patriotism, but
yeah. Speaking of fans, dull fans, are Americans boring baseball spectators? And I'll tell you where I got here. I was watching a TikTok, and they were interviewing, and I'm not a big NBA guy, but he plays for Denver, big time European.
Oh, I'm a zero NBA guy, so
anyhow, big time sort of international player. Jokic. I can't remember. Don't quote me on the guy's name. But there was a video, and they asked him, like, you were getting booed out there, during an NBA game. How did you fare? How did you feel? How did you persist through the boos? me see. We got hey SI. Thank you. There you go. How's the show going? It's going great. Thanks for stopping by, SI. I committed to one too many streams on a Friday, so I rolled from one stream to this one. Thanks SI for showing up. So anyhow, they asked the Serbian. He's like, hey, you were being booed in the NBA game. How did that make you feel? And he's like, bro, I played basketball in Serbia. This is nothing. Small computer. Let me show you that video. Let me show you that video to get perspective.
You experienced this sort of crowd reaction? I play in Serbia, brother.
And it's not unique to basketball. It's not unique to. I mean, you see it in soccer. Why are American sport fans so fucking boring, Steve?
Okay, so this is going to be a throwback to my World Baseball Classic Better Than World Series. So the international community can rejuvenate you when you see how other things are done and people get their passions up. It can actually improve you as a fan and get you more excited for the thing you already liked. Like, dude, that's like an NCAA atmosphere where people actually care. Mad about their team. Look at that. I mean, go to a game at Wembley or go to a game at, watch Manchester play, for example. I mean, people are just nuts about it, right? And I think with America, okay, this is probably why Americans are so-called dull about their sports, is we've got so many ways that you can be distracted. There's NBA, there's MLB. It's the same phenomenon that like San Diego and Southern California sports fans sort of have. There's too much to like out here. It's hard. Okay, so in Kansas, people are Chiefs fans. Everyone. I can look at Facebook and like people will have their kids in Chiefs gear. Like, Billy turned 3 today. Chiefs outfit, guaranteed. And the reason is there's nothing to do in Kansas but watch football and drink beer. That's it. And so, okay, so my point is these countries that, I mean, they have a much more honed focus of their sports. England, it's, I mean, rugby, a little bit of cricket and soccer, and that's it, right? So when you go into these atmospheres, it can remind you of how much passion you can get for your sport and sort of kick you in the ass a little bit. It's like you look at soccer, like no one watches the MLS, right? But people get pumped for the World Cup, man. Like, I'll put on my America gear. I'll watch the Women's World Cup, dude, and get crazy excited about it, right? Because you see the passion behind it, dude. Yeah, so maybe that's why we have dull fans is we've got too much going on, and you need to sometimes center your focus to remind yourself what made you fall in love with the game. You take it for granted if you're not reminded how cool it is. And other perspectives, other countries, other atmospheres can do that for you. That's why you need an outside perspective to sort of wake you up sometimes when you get too static with your complacency, to rejuvenate you a little bit, right? So
there's certainly that. I think the other piece to this too, the other component is that for a variety of different reasons, we've made it incredibly hard to sneak a goddamn slice of pizza into the game.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah, you've got that component, right? Yeah. Try and sneak in a flagpole with a big ass,
You nailed it. The reason we are dull sports fans is because Coors Lights are $18.
Yes!
That's it. We have cracked the code. And you can't smuggle in the hip flasks anymore. Yeah, dude, right? Right? Like, you just go, it brings you, it's almost like, it just pulls you into the atmosphere. Flying American cape with your face paint on and just America, baby. Like, totally.
I don't know, Steve. I'll watch like insert name of obscure like sport during the Olympics, and I don't know what the game is, but I'm like, yeah, go Team USA.
Yes, handball. What's the one with the small goal where I always see on my Facebook feed where they'll jump from like the 3-point line and they always do the spinny handball shot. It's always this lame shot on the goal, but it's like,
there you go.
But if it was America playing against I don't know. Pick any. Well, particularly one where it was like juicy, right? Like
Yes.
America, Russia. Ooh, do you remember that? I mean, what's the greatest comeback game miracle story ever? Is the Miracle on Ice. Like
But
that's
you know,
timeless, dude.
and it's so funny. I watched I think it was ESPN, 30 for 30 on the Miracle on Ice.
Not
And
comeback.
you
Sure.
interview the Russians, and they're like, yeah, it was just another game for us,
Yeah.
but to
Right.
us, it was the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
We won. We beat
Yeah.
the mighty
Well.
Russians on the ice. I don't know how true that statement is on their behalf. Maybe
Well,
they're
America loves or used to love an underdog, right? Used to love that sort of. And it's funny. I think we got so
That's
used
why
to
we all
winning.
rooted for the Eagles, Steve. I'm sorry. We just, I'm
Oh, I
funny.
thought they were going to win. People were asking me, and I said I said about the Eagles when we barely beat them off a ticky-tacky holding call 2 years ago. I said they've gotten better, and I'm not sure we have. So I wasn't expecting an absolute thumping like we got, but yeah, I should have put money. I had the trifecta. I had Saquon Barkley under 100 yards, the Eagles win, cover the spread, which I think was -1, and Taylor Swift appearances under 6.5, which was the easiest bet ever. I should have bet the farm on that because because they realize how much people do not like seeing her unless you happen to be a Tay Sway fan. But yeah, anyway, but we digress.
We
We were
digress.
talking about how
Sports.
dull Americans are at fans, but you're not given the right. We're not. I should say I'm an American now. Naturalized how long ago? Like 6, 7 years ago. Anyway, we're not
Really,
given
that
like you just need to bring it up and
we do.
yeah, get some
We do.
underdogness.
We need that energy.
Yeah,
That your team's got to win first for you to sort of
America
develop
has
some of that energy.
forgotten what it's like to be underdogs because we're so good at everything, which is true. I mean, I know that's a bit arrogant, but it's like we've reached a stage of arrogance now because we're no longer playing Russia in hockey where we're like the underdog little guy story. We've transitioned past the dream team era where we just expect to win everything, right? And that's boring. That's not exciting. It's like when I watch Chiefs games now. It's like it's not the same for me anymore because I'm not watching it like, ooh, I wonder if we're going to make the playoffs. So it's kind of it's going to be the same phenomenon for you with Dodgers games this year.
I dread getting there. I remember
you're
the
there.
Braves. The
You're there.
Braves for Braves fans, you went, those 10 years, that long stretch of time where they would make the playoffs. They would have a hard time filling the seats for an NLDS or an NLCS game because it was just like, oh, we've done that, we've seen that. Call me when it's the World Series. I don't want to get
Right.
there.
Right. No,
We
dude,
we
you
may
were
be there.
well and truly there. Okay, I should write down a number and keep it hidden at the end of the season. And the number is going to be, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions to you. The number is going to be is how many Dodgers games you actually watch before the playoffs, right? And I know you had a time where you were just watching every single game or whatever.
When they were losing, nonetheless.
Yeah, me too, dude. I always watch about 100 Royals games until I say, okay, that's enough. Let's start thinking about our farm prospects. It's always about 100.
I'm gonna go to 2 Cubby games this year.
Cool. Have you been to Wrigley?
Once.
You may say once, and I don't remember it. I was like,
it was a treat. It was really nice.
Yeah. Okay, if you could see it. Okay, what's the best stadium? What do you think is not necessarily? Well, you can say iconic, atmosphere, however you want to measure it. What do you think the best stadium in the majors is?
And this is maybe recency bias, but I really like Petco Park. I think it's a really nice stadium. I love the food. I love the location. It's so centrally located. I think if it's not Petco, I would say if you're going history and sort of everything.
You're taking Petco over Wrigley Field, dude.
I've been to both. Wrigley Field was really nice. You've got Wrigley Field. Fenway's nice. You've got the space there. That community there as well. But Petco's just nice. The food was better.
The best thing about Petco, and I wish the Royals did something this cool, because so I'm not a Padres fan, although I follow them because I'm in San Diego. But what really gave me like chills was like, okay, And who was I watching? I was watching
Who's that?
Padres Dodgers when what's his name lost his no strikeout streak. See, I don't know the NL that much.
I think I was there with you at that
Yeah,
game.
you were. Sorry,
That's
wow.
great.
Okay, I'm 40. My brain is mush.
Time flies.
Anyway. The coolest thing that the Padres do is that bell toll. Oh my
That's
god.
fun.
Holy crap, that got chills going. I wasn't even that invested in the game. I was like, okay, that is dope, dude.
We got it. Let's go to a game this year. Let's
Okay.
make this
Okay.
year.
If the Roy, okay,
Anyhow.
we watched the Dodgers last time. Let's go see. They should play a series. They play
They
one.
do. I think the Padres would play the Royals, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they switch home and away though every other year. So
Okay.
or is no? Sorry, no, it's not. They always play a home and away series. I'm silly. So yeah, let's do it.
It would be the more affordable of the two options.
Yeah, you were complaining.
Just
Yeah, hey, bring the kid.
bring the kiddo for sure.
No.
Yeah, Petco Park
don't
is
do
just
that.
a beautiful
Don't do that.
stadium. What can I say? And
hey.
let's go to this next topic here.
I'm reading your comments. Just a second. I've been.
Oh yeah. Sticks intern, lovely guy, love him. As a matter of fact, have you been to Battle Mage, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you want to explain what it is for people who don't know?
Well, Sticks interns knows, but I will explain it to people. Battle Mage is this really
Your
badass
comments are good, though, dude.
brewery, which is probably
Handball.
it's probably one of the best breweries out. It's Battle Mage rules. It does. It's great. It's great.
Yeah,
brewery.
that would be a good spot, but I don't think that they're big on the sports. It's not really the sport
They're not.
bar. It's more
They're
of the
not.
Magic the Gathering type bar with your meat.
It's a different. Yeah. So yeah.
It's
so
somewhere
maybe
between a
they're
gaming store and going to Comic-Con. It's somewhere like
with beer.
the meat. Isn't it meat? Do they even have any beer? I thought it was
No,
all
no,
just
no,
the-
no, me, no. It's beer. It's beer. It's good beer, and every so
All
often
right.
they've got a food truck.
Yeah, I'm totally
It
down.
depends on your definition of sport, Steve. He called you out. He's right.
Okay.
Wow.
This is gonna go. That's a really good comment though, because I have argued till I'm blue in the face about esports. Like, I feel like that Batman and Robin meme. No, it's not a fucking sport, for Christ's sake.
Oh,
No
wow.
way. Okay, if you want to make a new word and call it e-sport, okay, you want to classify it as something different. But taking the word sport when you really mean a game, and then you can say, well, what's the difference between a sport and a game? It's like, yeah, well, that is the important question, isn't it? What is the difference if you're having this conversation?
You got you've opened up a can
That's
of worms.
okay. That's a good question too, because it's similar, like reflex and whatever. Yeah. Okay. A sport requires. Well, we could come up with some criteria of what a sport requires. I could, right? Like
Maybe the next pod we come
sitting in a
back to finding.
computer chair or a racing car chair. Fair enough. And like click, click, click. Like, okay, can we first start with the premise that chess is not a sport? And I am an avid chess player. I'm pretty darn good at chess, but chess is not a sport, right? It's not just game equals sport. It's not just competition equals sport, right? Like
Yeah.
competitive Uno would not be a sport, right? It's a game.
Are you sort of then are you inferring that to be
It
defined
requires
as sport?
physical
Physical.
skill. That is sport. Yes.
Oh, Steve, I've seen Tetris championships.
Yeah,
and those,
it's a game.
those fingers.
Yes.
Those
No, that's the argument that my boneheaded esport friends like to say, but it requires reactions of your mouse and therefore it's physical and it's a sport. It's like, well, chess requires you to move your hand quickly when you're low on time, therefore it's a sport. Dumb bastards. Like the comment about NASCAR is a really good one. That I need to think about. That you've got a good crowd here, or at least the one comment section contributor.
one commenter here. Yeah, we've got 10
is
viewers.
too broad. Yeah, I'll agree
here.
with that it's too broad too. Like, and I know it has to have like
Oof.
some
Ooh, chess metaphor flawed.
what the clock.
Yeah,
But how fast you can move your hand directly influences how well you can play under tight time controls. So the more physically the more I've built up this muscle to.
Well, and
I'm
you know
being
what? Maybe
facetious,
maybe
dude. I'm not
that
trying to make a perfect match.
maybe that's a great segue to your reflexes. How fast can you dodge a baseball, Steve? Did you watch
But the
this?
brain is a muscle. Oh, I beg your pardon, John.
No, look at
Sorry,
the
sorry.
no. SI's got a way to sort of drag you into a conversation. I love it. No, for sure. Bobby Miller. Did you watch him?
God, I did. Thank God, dude. Thank Christ for that, dude. 108 off the melon.
Let me, for those of you who didn't
Don't
see
show
it,
the video, dude. People can watch it. I don't. Come on,
oh
man.
yeah, go find it. Go find it. But I will say it brought up an interesting conversation, right? You know, the sport has changed where catcher helmets have evolved. The mesh fencing to protect the
Yep.
fence, that's changed.
Yeah, I got some bad news
Um,
for you though, because I know where you're well, I think I know where you're going with this.
Pitchers, we're neglecting our pitchers here.
No, the option's available. Jennings wore an insert in his cap, right? Like a
There's
metal plate along the
Yeah,
brow.
there's some of that, and we've got some pictures here of some alternatives here that they look
I have a
goofy.
feeling I'm catching John facetiousness in this. Go on. What are your proposed safety
I'm
equipments for pitchers?
you pitcher helmets. What do you think of that?
Oh, okay. So if you don't want to be injured whilst pitching, you could go to extremes to okay, same with football, right? You could wear the Guardian helmet, which is way more effective, but no one does, right? Because it's not just about safety, even for the player himself. There's other factors like is it comfortable and does it make you look like a doofus, etc., while you're playing the game?
One.
And you would think that the smart decision would be just, well, if you want to be smart, you protect your head and you strap in your bubble wrap and, you're not going to get injured. But no, I call him Geo, but anyway. But the thing is not looking like a doofus and feeling comfortable. Forget if it's even affecting your play, right? Just like it's really important for these guys too. It's not all about safety. There are lots of things you can do in your life to increase your safety, which we don't do, right? It's like if I wanted to be more safe with my life, I could do it, but I don't, right? Like, so when you're talking about what's the chance of getting drilled in the head for the pitchers? It's like 0.0001% or something astronomically small, and you've had
I
two
I I think you've had like one person, one fatality over the years. Yes, am I
in
wrong?
baseball. There was the dude
Baseball.
who got pelted in like 1427. No, it's more like 190 something or rather, because this is an interesting story. This is an anecdote I know about baseball. They were playing a game and you used to be able to use the same ball, provided it didn't get hit and it was still in play, right? So even for baseballs that got in the dirt, etc., and got debris and mud and crap on them, pitchers would get to with like cricket, you'd get to use that and keep adding your extra sauce on the ball. And what happened in this game was the ball got so muddy and dirt-fied that it was completely brown. And this is before batting helmets even. And the dude couldn't see the ball coming at him and got struck in the head and killed. This is a true story. You can look at it, I guess in 1927, something like that. And after that, because of that fatality, it's probably a little later, that's why that they have to dispose of any ball that touches the dirt. So you see them, any ball that has, this is a strict rule in baseball, any ball that has any sort of substance on it that's not a legal substance, if it's got, well, you can use a little bit of pitching dirt or whatever, that strikes the ground, you have to get rid of. The umpire will not allow you to use it because of that fatality in baseball.
Oh boy, you bring up an interesting topic, maybe for another day. The whole issue of pine tar or sticky substances on balls to control, to provide a bit more control over a baseball when you're throwing 100 plus miles an hour. Topic for another day. But it's interesting, right? I don't know. I mean, to your point, I don't know. You introduce a bunch of variables, right? For baseball players who are very regimented as to what they will won't do. or can and can't do to sort of keep their game up. You introduce another variable like a helmet that has more padding but obstructs your vision a bit more. I mean,
No,
I
it's
can
just on the
the
brim.
shirt,
It's just above the bill.
but is that going to
whatever.
impact you? Is it gonna make you more sweaty? I mean, I don't know, right? I mean, there's no.
Right. Are you going to be thinking about it? It's not what you're used to. Yeah, exactly. Which is why no one uses it. Not even Jennings
Uh,
uses it anymore. Is Jennings still pitching? Huh.
I don't know. Good
I don't
question.
know. Have to check.
Well, anyway, maybe we end on this topic. Let's save universal DH for another day. Let's
Okay.
end. Let's end on goatees and beards, or beards being a thing for the Yankees now. This. I don't know what that's about, but it's a thing. You can now have a beard. It's got to be trimmed. Gotta be nice. To play for the Yankees. Is that? I mean, why? Like, what is it a big to do about nothing, or is it something for you? Does it move the needle? When you woke up this morning and you saw the announcement that the Yankees are now allowing their players to have a properly trimmed beard, did that do anything for you, Steve?
Yeah, but I have an old-fashioned take on this, and I'm a hypocrite, as you see me slovenly dressed in my Royals jacket and whatever, right? So, okay, I could ask the question: why does it have to be neatly trimmed?
Well, I think the counter argument there is you're trying to establish a decorum for the team,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
it's not at that point. It's not about what you look like. It's, hey, can you follow protocol? Are
Right.
you going to be in line with the team? Are you going to do what's best for the team? But I have issues with that. I mean, altogether.
Yeah. Okay. I was just having my old-timey. Okay. This is tangential, but it's the best way I can sort of get to my thoughts on this. So please forgive me. But if you look at the way we dress these days, and you catch old video from even the 60s to the 70s, right? And you just see how much care people used to have in their attire. Generally speaking, of course. But I mean, people used to go out in suits, right? Like
Oh
to
yeah,
present yourself
get on an
decently
airplane
there.
in a
Oh,
suit,
people would get
right?
dressed up for the affair, right? Like really, really care about like proper the way that you're supposed to look, whatever that happens to be. There are strict rules of decorum of what you follow, right? Even if some of them are kind of, yeah, exactly, right? But rules and a standard that some of it might be a little bit arbitrary, but you've said it: beard, no beard, suit, nice, right? And what I think that we've done with decency, geez, I'm really screaming at clouds now, so please forgive me. We've really sort of taken steps back in every place that I can think of decency, of how you're supposed to behave, act, dress, etc., to the point where it's now just, you do whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy. And I know I might be taking that position too roughly when it comes to a little bit of a beard nicely trimmed in a baseball team, but it's like, yeah, okay, well then why have it nicely trimmed? Who cares? Like, and I know it's a bit of a slippery slope, but Jesus, can I point to degradation of standards in 1,000 other places from this exact position of, well, the strict standards were too strict, because it's very difficult to put the genie back in the bottle. Once you start relaxing standards, it's very, very, very difficult to go and increase the sort of structure. It's really easy to take it away. It's really easy to start losing standards of how people ought to behave. It's very easy to start giving leeway. So
Here's my issue with the whole thing. I feel like it's a slippery slope of things in this regard, right? Because then you become like black and white. It's like,
yeah,
well,
but
we said the beard's got to look this. Derek Jeter's our shortstop. I don't care if A-Rod's a better shortstop. Derek Jeter's our shortstop because he's been our shortstop, right? You get into these like, this is the way it's been, and it's like, to what
yeah,
extent, right? It's like, at
yeah,
one
the
point,
the,
are
the,
you
the
doing yourself a
people who
disservice?
the people who wag their finger at Elvis Presley doing a little bit of gyrations might have had a point when you consider the state of where music's at today.
Maybe.
Right?
But
So you can say that you were being too controlling with, geez, it's just a little bit of dancing and shimming. It's like, okay, but nothing but deterioration of the standards usually follows. And here's something people usually get wrong with the slippery slope fallacy. It's only a logical fallacy if you use it as a determinant of A implies B because this. But that doesn't mean that I can't use it as a correlation. It's only a fallacy if I say, therefore it will happen, right? But you can point to a trend of degradation and say, it is possible that the same degradation will continue here. It's not an implication, but when standards start to deteriorate, they usually continue to deteriorate, not as a one-to-one relationship, but like I said, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. So do I care about a beard on a player? No, but I also care about players acting correctly, the way they ought to act and behaving correctly and whatever.
I go back. I go back to my frustration.
Sorry, John.
I go back to my frustration a few years ago with this whole concept of like let the kids play. You know, this notion in baseball where it's like, all right, let's get some flair into the game. And you know, I was
for Christ's sake, John. There, right?
I was okay when Yasiel Puig was doing them, but when Tatis and Machado were doing, I didn't care for it, Steve. But
do not care for it. Sorry, you don't behave like that.
It's the direction of the sport, and that's why, Steve. Maybe that's why we're dull fans in adult sport.
It's always rationalized though. Yeah, but it's exciting and it gets people watching. It was like, yeah, and women taking their shirts off and woo-hooing, right? That'll get people watching too. No, it will.
Yeah, it will. Sure.
So just because it gets excitement and popularity. I totally agree with that comment, by the way, right? And drawing the line of, oh man, we're going to get into a philosophical podcast now, of determining how you ought to behave. We've lost our compass on that. And like bat flips and this crap, all because, but it's exciting and it gets, the numbers up and people want to watch it. And it's like, yeah, but you ought not to act like that in sport, right?
Well, maybe
basketball players who are hitting these shots.
Maybe it goes back to that Chase. Maybe it goes back to that Chase Elliott comment, right? You know, it depends on who you're rooting for. You know, if
yeah, try that in a rugby game. Okay,
that's fair.
Try scoring a try and getting up and doing a little wiggy dance. That's not the hakra, for example, which is actually a respectful gesture, by the way. The haka, excuse me. Try getting smart like that in a rugby game and see what happens. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's fair. But if Bobby Witt Jr. started, if he got his, if he went Mohawk, started flipping bats, had a spinning thing, maybe a gaudy ring he pulled out every time.
Yeah, let's get you covered in tats. Let's get some diamond earrings in there.
Would you stop being a Royals fan?
I wouldn't be a Bobby Witt fan.
But you wouldn't be but you'd still be a Royals fan.
Yeah, I will almost certainly always be a Royals fan unless the organization has a blemish on their integrity, right? Like if they get caught in a cheating scandal like the Astros got into, that would make me seriously quit. I would still be a fan of the Royals, of the present or the past version of the Royals, right? I would always say, well, I'm a fan of the Royals, but not the present organization, and I don't like that whatsoever. But like, yeah.
So then going back to the question, beards, big deal or no deal for the Yankees?
It depends on what scope you're looking at it. Are beards a big deal on players? No. Do I like a strict line being put? It's like who said, Billy Connolly said this in another stand-up comedian I like. He said, times may change, but standards must remain the same. And I generally appreciate that. And if you're going to change the standards, you ought to do so with a great amount of care to not totally disrupt the reasons for those standards being put there in the first place for proper behavior. Because you risk getting in what we have today, which is no one knows what proper behavior is. And it's bat flips and showboating and stupidity all around. Like, what's sportsmanship anymore? Jesus Christ. Anyway.
Let me ask you this question then. Maybe we'll end on this note. If the difference between signing the player and not signing the player is a beard or no beard, if that's a defining factor, is that player worth having, Steve? If that was the deal breaker all
It's
along.
a good logical test to push it to the extreme. So you're telling me that I have a high-quality player
Vladdy
he
Guerrero Jr.
refuses this 17-year-old prospect out of the Dominican refuses to shave, and he's going to violate team policy. Let's say that the majors, well, it's team by team basis whether they allow it or whatever. So he's refusing to abide by team policy, right? Even though he's the top prospect, he says, if you draft me with your first pick and you enforce that beard, I am not interested in that player.
You are not.
Because that's testing the limit of, are you willing to win regardless of your standards, right? Okay, I can play that game all day and deteriorate standards till kingdom come. I had a friend of mine who was, I think it was when the Patriots game, from New England, and I asked him about what he felt with, kind of the overblown Deflategate and all that, and the taping of stuff and his serious comment was, seriously, this was not tongue in cheek of what he said, if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. Okay. Okay.
It's an argument.
Or if you're not depreciating your standards are merely just barriers.
You're not cheating, Steve.
Winning.
You're not playing the game.
Right, yeah, because it's all about winning, right?
Anyhow, on that tantalizing debate, thank you very much for watching the 3-2 podcast. The we'll do whatever podcast of by two casual baseball fans debating some things baseball.
Debating the stupidity of bat flips. That should be the next topic.
Jesus and maybe Steve, were the Astros martyrs? Were they the black sheep?
They got caught.
And everyone else was doing it. More on that next time. Thank you very much.
You would need evidence to convince me that everyone else was doing it. But okay, next time.
Next time, Steve.
Were there teams cheating who didn't get caught? Yes. And I would be sorely disappointed if that one of those teams was the Royals. Yeah.
The Dodgers may have to.
We're going to keep talking if you don't cut it.
We're going to keep talking. Steve, any parting words to our 16 viewers who hopefully liked and subscribed and will leave a comment to our video?
Yep. I'd be interested to hear, John, if I may, I'd be interested to hear if you guys would prefer more sort of adversarial or just general, like, milquetoast baseball commentary, because we got a little spicy.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah,
if it's more entertaining, I'm a very opinionated dude on a lot more contention.
And I like to poke the bears. So I can get Steve riled up. Let us know.
Into a fine lather.
And if you got topics to discuss, baseball topics to discuss, to debate, let us know. Maybe next time we debate whether or not chess is the sport. Esports. Let's get back there. I'm just kidding, Steve. I don't want to.
Lord. Okay, I will get a I will come up with a standard of what a sport is.
That's your homework assignment, Steve, because because SI, I mean, he likes the adversarial, conversational content. Don't force it either. Don't force it. Just don't run away from it, Steve.
Okay. Well, if we get talking about esports being a sport, it's gonna get.
If
you poke the bear on this, it's.
No, but it is, Steve. It is. It is. And on that note, catch y'all later.
Bye. Thank you for watching, guys.